Go to the ball.
And at the end, he gets to go to the ball. Like, I'm sorry.
So I did think of Harry, but I guess in my head, he wasn't included because there's so many memes of Disney princesses proving that Harry is a Disney princess.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I've
Oh
never
my
seen
God.
one.
You've
I'll
never
post
seen
one on our
one?
social. Oh
Oh
my God.
no.
I'll post one on our socials.
Post
It's
a couple.
Okay,
incredible.
please.
Like, what
Because
is
I
a
also thought
do you have
Hagrid.
magical hair? Boom. Do you have eyes that captivate people? Boom. Do you have like I mean, it's he's a Disney
Are
prince.
both your parents dead?
Are both your parents dead?
Right? I'm like, that's why I said don't
He's a
hate me
Disney
because he is
princess.
the winner. He is on point for Cinderella.
You're
Yeah.
not
So you just realized a meme that you hadn't even seen before.
Pretty much. Yes, that's what just happened. Because I originally was going to go with Hagrid because he was just like willing to do whatever Dumbledore said. But
Sure.
Hagrid never really gets that happily ever after. So I was like, no, I'll keep thinking. And Harry
Yeah.
popped in. I actually had a vision of Harry and a peasant dress sweeping.
Yes.
And
Yep.
That's what brought me in.
I love that visual. And Sam, you are drawing so much.
Do
You have to read it to her because you can't
I
see it.
can't read it, but that is
you
hilarious.
have magic hair? Yes. Do you have magic hands? Gillyweed. Do animals talk to you? Snakes. Were you cursed? Yes. Scar. Kidnapped or enslaved? Dursleys. Do people assume all your problems got solved because a big strong man showed up? Hagrid.
Ah,
Oh my God, that's
I've never
awesome.
seen one of those. But I've
That is
seen like 3 or 4, and they all continuously prove Harry is a Disney princess.
Harry is a Disney princess. I wish that our episode was about that, honestly, because I feel like we could do a good hour about that.
Right?
okay.
Um,
For the record, that might be episode 109 because we still need a topic. Harry as a Disney princess.
totally fine. But today we are talking about something bleaker. Uh, Lucius and house elves.
Lucius is not a Disney princess. There you go.
He is also not Jason Isaac.
And I was not even going there. I'm focused on Lucius
Haha.
because Jason could be a Disney princess.
Of course, Jason could
Of
be a
course.
Disney princess.
No, he couldn't. Jason is not a Disney princess. You
No,
want to
he's
know
a prince.
why? Because Jason is Prince Eric. Jason is Prince Charming. Jason is the Beast. Jason is every single Disney prince. Now I've just paired Jason Isaacs with the character Harry Potter, and I'm a little bit confused about my life.
I I'd like to throw out that if we're talking about Harry Potter actors as princes, Chris Rankin is for sure Prince Eric.
Can we talk about Prince Rankin? Prince Rankin.
Prince Rankin.
Okay. I'm sorry. He is a prince of a man for sure. But
and if Nessa is listening, she's going, Prince? Really?
did you guys see? I did respond to it, but I was so impressed because I have a friend who was currently or just finished closing Oliver. It struck me even more that Chris Rankin just posted that he is, I think
He's Fagin.
he's Fagin in
Yeah. I would
Oliver right
love
now,
to see
which
him as
just was like,
Fagin.
oh, that's awesome. The makeup looked great. He looked like a
He,
perfect Fagin. He really,
oh my
really.
God. He
So
looks
I was
great.
like, oh, go Chris, break a leg. I'm so
London
excited.
might not work out, so maybe we'll move to Wales and be part of a community theater.
You know what? We need ASOB UK. That's what we need. We need ASOB UK.
Ooh.
I'm okay with this. I'm just putting that out there that I'm more than okay with this.
Okay, so we're
So
going
we
to
started the topic and then immediately went
we
off
did
the rails.
what? Do we
We
do
didn't even
tangents?
do we do tangents all the time. Sometimes it takes us a couple minutes, and sometimes we say this is the topic. Now we're going to spend 10 minutes on something completely unrelated.
You say that like that's a bad thing. Anyway, so
No,
Lucius
it's
and
part of our
house
charm.
elves.
Yes.
So I took this and I wanted to put this to you guys because we never really talked in detail about what this topic actually meant to us and how we defined it. And I did not think of this as Lucius and the house elves that we meet. I took
Same.
this to be Lucius and his general attitude and relationship to the house elf community as a whole.
That's kind of where I went. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
Because if we talk about Lucius and Dobby specifically, I'm going to end up crying. I'm going to end up angry. There's going to be
Well,
a lot of feelings.
I feel like we should touch on it because that's the
Oh,
relationship
yes.
that we see, and that's the basis. That's our basis for his relationship with house elves. It would be
Absolutely.
interesting to see a house elf like creature in at the Malfoy house and see how that dynamic maybe changed, maybe
Right.
not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have some questions that I did think of. My
Okay.
first question, and this goes to lore, head canon, actual canon, whatever. We know house elves are something you have to be able to afford. We know house elves are beings that would need pillowcases, food, clothing, shelter. So they take up not gas, electric back for them. Like they take up extra candlelight. They eat food, So you have to have some money in order to get them.
Yeah.
In your headcanons, in your thoughts of this whole franchise, do you have to be rich to have one, or rich, therefore you have many? Because I feel in my headcanon, anyone can buy a house elf. If you can afford it, you could buy one.
Okay, so
But
I
the
have a
families
two-part
like
answer.
the Malfoys would have many because A, they could afford it. B, they've got the house that needs that much care. Like it's kind of like maid servants and stuff like that. I could afford a cleaner here once a week. But
Besides Hogwarts, do we see multiple house elves in any houses?
well, we don't know. We don't see multiple anything. We know
Yeah.
Fudge, no. Barty Crouch had one.
Yeah.
We know that the Malfoy had
Blacks.
at least one. We know that the Blacks had at least one.
We
Yeah,
know the
that's
Blacks had
the-
several.
We know they had several because of the heads.
Right.
But that's why I'm asking the question, because in my head, you can probably even rent a house elf, just like you can rent maid service. Like go to Diagon Alley, there's probably a rent a weekend servant person.
Right.
Yeah.
In my head, I will to answer your question. Oh, do you need to?
No, go ahead.
Okay. To answer your question, I have always pictured that 3 different things happen. You can rent a house elf. If you are middle class, upper middle class, or above, you can buy a house elf. And if you are super rich, unless something happens, you inherit your house elf. And then you may have to buy one to replace it.
Okay.
But I think like the super rich, it comes with the house and
Yeah.
the family.
See,
That's kind of
think
how
after, oh, sorry, I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say, I think in like the Malfoy Black situation, there's so many of them and they're having babies that they don't ever have to buy anymore because they're always reproducing themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are a single witch living really well, who gets herself a house elf, if he dies, you got to go find a new one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's almost like it's like nouveau rich versus old money.
Mm-hmm.
You have the families like the Blacks, like the Malfoys that have long lines of house elves that they behead when they pass away.
Also, keeping in mind, I do think, okay, so if we're going to go under the idea that the house elf system is based off of, I'm going to use the American slave system because I don't know the British one very well. You could also lend out your house elves and then have them sent back to you. You do bequeath your house elves to your children. you may have like 3 children and 7 house elves, so each child gets a house elf when they get married and move out. Like, I think all of these things are possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about.
And I guess it came to me because maybe it was a fanfic I was reading. I can't remember, but Hermione said something like, pardon me. Well, it's not like everyone can have a house elf. It's only for rich purebloods. And I was like, what? And I'm pretty sure it was a fanfic, obviously. But I was like, are there people who that's what they think? Like, because we only ever saw 3 house elves outside of Hogwarts who were with 3 rich pureblood families, is the impression given that that's how it's supposed to be? Or
is that system starting to break down, and like having house elves starting to be frowned upon? Because there has to be some kind of murmurings of that, otherwise the Hogwarts house elves wouldn't be paid.
I would say I don't think it's being frowned upon yet. I think maybe after the war, in the next 19 years, next administrations, it starts to be frowned upon. But if you go by Mrs. Weasley and Ron, or what Ron says with Mrs. Weasley and how he looks at house elves, it is such a standard, matter of fact way of life that I don't think at the point we are in the books, it's frowned upon yet.
Well, I like the Hogwarts elves are paid. And I wonder if that's bureaucracy.
Are they all paid, or just the ones that want to be and are willing to be paid?
I don't know, but I'm just still saying.
I think they're all paid, but Dobby, like Dumbledore negotiated their pay, and all the other house elves were like, "Whatever you want to give me, yep, that's fine." And Dobby was
I
like,
wonder if it's bureaucracy, because he running a school that's that politically charged. He would have had to walk the line between pleasing every side, and this is literally about money and government. The school gets away with being run really well and efficiently by a lot of house elves. Then they don't have to hire a lot of people, therefore they can make more money because they're not paying people. And I can imagine any administration going, but wait.
It's upsetting. It's a little upsetting how little, now seeing all the obvious parallels, it's a little upsetting. And you can see why Hermione's like, "Are you guys kidding me? We're just gonna accept this?"
It is. It's really funny. There was a time in the fandom I heard a lot of people really wanted to like talk about the house elves and the problem with the house elves. And the problem is, and I have my own theory of how this happened, the way the story is written, house elves are really, really bad until we have bigger fish to fry. And then it's kind of like the house elf liberation front, we'll say that, is no longer, it's a storyline that needs to get to the way back burner because there's so many other storylines to go. And I think the author went, we need to do, this is a chance for me to make a statement. Wow, I have too many statements to make. I just have to sacrifice this one. Like, I think it got dropped.
That's fair. That's totally fair. And that happens in a lot of epic fantasy novels
all the time.
Way too many storylines.
Concerned about who you're going to be betrothed to, and then a dragon comes in. Like,
it's just too much stuff. It's too much. But there is definitely a parallel between the American slavery we know and the house elf thing.
But going back to my question, so we're all good with anyone could buy one / rent one if from the maid service place in Diagon, that it's not just rich purebloods who have them.
Yes.
Okay.
I wonder if it was harder for Muggleborns and Half-Bloods to because of where they are